the LA fires and the fraying of civilization. We're going to get into that today because I've been tagged into it on some of these LA fire videos, and people also know I have very distinct views on society today, particularly Western civilization and, well, what we might call the fraying of Western civilization. Let's get into it today. And a very good morning to all of you as I'm recording this. The fires continue to claim more victims, more property, growing disaster down in LA. And I was specifically asked if I knew about the looting and things that were going on in Los Angeles. And as I said in my last video where I talked about the fires, I am super familiar with what goes on in post-fire scenes and during fire scenes. It seems to bring out both the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. We have heroic people that are fighting on the fire lines, risking their lives, inhaling tremendous amounts of toxic smoke, and still out there battling and doing the job. 1,000 inmates from California prisons, as well as private firefighter forces. Yes, there is such a thing, if you can afford it, that are there in the hills battling the fire. But yes, looting is a fact of life because, well, people are always going to, some core people that are always going to take advantage of a situation and use it to their benefit. And there's been, as I thought that there would be, a steady stream of what I call lowlifes migrating up to these fire areas, specifically targeting and looking for homes that did not burn, but people were told to evacuate. And, well, they become targets of opportunity. These empty homes, and sadly, this is now part of the day-to-day fabric. There are, I think, 8,000 National Guard that have been deployed in the area, but we're talking about fire that's destroyed and laid waste to land mass the size of larger than Manhattan. We're talking about a lot of property. It's too much to cover for individuals. It's kind of sad in a way that we had just 3 of the rainiest years almost on record in California, and particularly Los Angeles last year. But the decision was made the last couple of years to protect the Delta smelt and allow all the water in the Sacramento River to go out to sea. So the reservoirs that were there weren't filled. In addition, in Northern California, I think something like 4 dams were blown up on the Klamath River, and that was 80,000 Californians that got their electric power through that hydroelectric grid. It's almost like, when weighing off the greater of two evils, it seems like humans are now the downside of the equation, that we care more about fish and we care more about, we should care about river systems, but more about, if you want less power being generated by coal and natural gas and nuclear power, well, blowing up hydroelectric dams is not the way to do it. And now a lot of California is paying the price for that. In addition, we have misplaced priorities in leadership. That the mayor of Los Angeles can go to travel to Africa for the inauguration of the new president of Ghana. Well, to which I say, I hope you enjoyed the festivities, because it's not the kind of thing that I think a mayor of the second largest city in the United States would be within their purview of doing to begin with. It should be something like the State Department goes and things like that. But we have misplaced priorities out here. In addition, the fire chief mentioned a couple years ago that 70% of the hires were going to be non-merit based. In other words, they were going to fill DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion goals as a top priority. Well, think about what we're saying in these type of situations with this DEI that we've gone through that now seems to be starting to be reversed as the president-elect is getting ready to come into office. It's basically saying we don't want to have what is perceived to be the best in testing resumes and other things. We want to fulfill just quota systems here, and well, if that's not being selective and being prejudiced against people, then I don't really know what is. It just doesn't ring as a very honest thing to do in government. And I think in a lot of ways, the city of Los Angeles and the surrounding towns are paying a dear price for these type of situations of no water in reservoirs, because the reservoirs weren't filled for a reason. Okay, even after the 3 wettest seasons on record. So there will be a lot of blame. The Department of Water and Power will be sued. I've already seen on YouTube advertisements for, if you've been affected by the fires, contact us. We have some information for you. Well, it's a gateway to lawsuits coming up. But the looting and things is troublesome, but that's also a bit of a sideshow to what's going on. We had another great train robbery, and this is going to be more and more a feature. I think this one was in Arizona, where robbers and thieves are just brazenly breaking into trucking firms, breaking into rail cars, and just willy-nilly stealing and looting and things of that nature. We have still smash and grabs at a very high level in America, to the point that we're losing a lot of our retail infrastructure here and our retail stores because it's just too difficult. It's almost unconscionable to put employees at risk when you know very well that there might be a situation where there might be a gun or a knife waved in their face and people are going to go rampant in flash mobs and wreak havoc to that retail establishment. So the upshot of all this is that insurance goes super high. And the reality is insurance has to be able to reach a point where things can become insurable. People think that insurance companies are supposed to be not-for-profit enterprises, but they are for-profit enterprises, right? They employ a lot of people. They underwrite a lot of property, but at the end of the day, if they can't make money doing an economic activity, they're going to stop doing that activity. It just makes sense. And with the hostile climate towards insurance in California, we now see a case where even some of the wealthiest people who had and movie stars and others who had their policies canceled a few months ago did not replace them. So there's a lot of people that are very bitter, and it's not just people that can least afford it, but it's also the wealthy and people that have a lot of money. So the problem is we have this fare, which is the insurance that's going to be, which is the last resort. So once again, here we are at a point where something I've been talking about for the last few years is coming more and more to fruition. And that is this. That when you have large pools of insurance that are spread across the public, which these insurance companies are surely going to do, spreading that risk all over the state, you have a situation there, a terrible situation where once again we privatize profits. The insurance companies are able to profit, which is okay, but we socialize the loss across everybody. Everybody has to shoulder the weight of, well, houses that burned up in locations that probably shouldn't have houses built on them anyway. It's privatization of profit and socialization of loss. Will the looting and things get worse? Well, you tell me. You have one of the wealthiest areas in the United States, Pacific Palisades, and other areas too up there in the hills. It's a natural magnet to attract lowlifes that have no conscience, no moral compass whatsoever. And it's part and parcel of the breakdown and the ripping of the fabric of society and civilization here on a more and more and more larger scale. In other words, the problems don't diminish. The problem increases in scope as every year goes by. For one very, very critical and important reason. Civilization has always depended to the greatest extent on people moderating and being civilized. Now think about that. Civilization is always dependent on people doing the right thing, even though nobody's looking over their shoulder, even though there won't be any punishment if they can get away with something. It's always dependent on people being ethical. And where does ethics come from? It does not come from a horizontal world of human values. It comes from above. You start to remove that from society, and, well, civilization loses its anchor. And people see no justification for not. Well, why shouldn't I go up and loot? Right, big deal. I'll take what I want. If I can get away with it, so much the better. No consequences, no moral aspect to that kind of life at all. Well, California, of course, is going to pay an extremely heavy price coming up for the fires, and probably all of California with special legislative sessions. There will be finger pointing, I guarantee. You can already tell you there'll be a recall the mayor of LA campaign. There'll be recall the governor of California campaign. But at the end of the day, the whole climate of governance has to change here in the state of California. That, well, people have to be elevated in importance once again. Instead of being, well, subjected to nature, they're supposed to be masters of nature. We have no timber industry here in California anymore because, well, $100 million was removed that's used for clearing forests and dead lands and brush, and things can contribute to fires. Well, you get what you get, right? Anyway, these are my thoughts. I'd be welcoming to see your comments down below about the whole situation and also the greater lesson that's now coming through in a civilization that is clearly coming unraveled. So there it is. Thanks for tagging me in. Thanks for watching, everybody. And if you're not subscribed and you enjoyed the commentary, please subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications. Share it out to your friends and family on social media, and your thumbs up are appreciated. Thanks for watching, everybody.